Hi, this is János, it's Real World Audio, and this video is for Edward Brockman. He was asking about what can we do to take the Pure Darling to the next step. So I'm going to illustrate this on this Darling amp of mine, and here we go. So one of the things that that you can do to take the Pure Darling to the next level is to leave the metal chassis behind. So here I have an aluminum chassis, and I recommend to go for an all wooden chassis. Now this is not for beginner builders. I only recommend it to those of you who are veteran amplifier builders. If you are a new amplifier builder and you go for an all wooden chassis, your reward will be you will burn your home down. So don't do that. Don't even think about doing an all wooden chassis. Only do that if you've been building amplifiers, tube amps, high voltage tube amps for over a decade, and you are utterly confident in your skills that you can execute it. You know about voltage insulation, and you know what electricity can do, you know about fire hazard, and you are 100% able to control it, take care of the wiring and voltage insulation, etc. So basically that's my number one thing that you can do, and that will be better for the tonality of the amplifier if you go for an all wooden chassis. Because on a metal chassis, whatever vibration your transformer has, it will be coupled to the chassis, and that vibration is coupled to your tubes, and it will be amplified into the sound as a low-level hum, which will distract. And then not just the low-level hum, but also like whatever metallic resonances your chassis adds to that hum, it will be also present as an extra overtone into the sound. And then for those of you, actually coming back to how applicable this tweak is, you can do it not just for a Pure Darling but other amplifiers as well. But I would draw the limit of not going above 200 and a couple volts, so stay below 300 volts for an all wooden chassis. If you go above that, then you are playing with fire there, so it's not applicable for everything. Of course, you can go for the all wood chassis by using wood instead of the metal and using tube sockets, right? And then it's not such a difficulty, but still you need to be a very experienced builder if you want to apply it for amplifiers that have 400-500 volts on the plate. And if it has like 500 volt, I would not go for a wooden chassis, because that is really, even if you do everything right, then there's still risk of burning the home down. And if you have like 600-700 volts, then an all wooden chassis is off the table. For sure it will catch fire at one point. So there's a fine line, and it also based on your experience as a builder, whether you want to try it or if you want to go that route or can go. In most cases, an all wooden chassis is the realm of a preamplifier or maybe a DAC or a phono stage, but for a power amplifier, in this case, you can go for it, because the Pure Darlings use relatively low plate voltages, which are in the realm of what you see in phono stages in general. Yes, so that's number one thing, wooden chassis. However, you can take it to the next level by making the tube sockets wood as well. Just drill holes for the pins of the tubes. For the driver tubes, that's really hard. I would say just stay with a tube socket there. You can't really do like a wooden socket for that, because you'll have trouble connecting anything to the pins of the driver tubes, because here you see these have these fine 2 pins. I don't know if it focuses there or not, but those tiny pins, you can't really solder onto them. That they are really resilient buggers, and you really need a metal base to grip to those pins. So there you cannot do much with that. However, for the power tubes and rectifiers, I will pull out my 5AR4 here. As you see, these pins are actually not the support wires that come from inside the tube, but it's an extra base added to the rectifier tube, and those pins actually that come out from the tube are about the same size as these really fine buggers here, but there's a big metal jacket around them. And what you can do, what I did for my really pure designs is that desolder these legs and put a gauge 22 silver wire into the leg, into the pin, and solder it in with high quality silver solder. And then just don't use the tube sockets pins for the connections, so don't use those buggers, but have the wires, so use the tube socket only for mechanical placement to hold the tube in place. Hi Kintaro, we have Kintaro joining us here. I tried to grab him. Yes, I have grabbed him. Kintaro is here. Hello, Kintaro. So just use the socket for mechanical connection and hardwire those silver leads directly to the amplifier. And I don't recommend anything thinner than gauge 22, because you need some mechanical stability, and you will see that you will have trouble putting in a finer silver wire into those pins, because once it's there, it can break much easier, very easily. And gauge 22 is something that's nice and stable, and you can put in and remove that tube without much difficulty afterwards. However, when you do that, when you put directly solder in the wires into the tube, then you will not be able to tube roll anymore. You have hardwired your tubes into the amplifier. So if you want to tube roll, you have to desolder the tubes, and then be carefully just pull out the tubes with the wires hanging out from the pins, and do the same surgery to another tube and put it back and solder it back. So it's a major thing to do tube rolling when you do that. However, the really big however, that when you hardwire a vacuum tube like that and you use it bypassing the connectors on the tube socket, it will be bigger change than rolling in any other tube. So it will be a night and day, completely mind-blowing thing. That's what I did to a preamp that I was using, where I hardwired every tube in that amplifier like that, and it was just completely mental, completely insane preamplifier with just insane bandwidth without any feedback. When I tried to measure it on the scope, the only limitations I had on it was that I was measuring the limits of my probe for the frequency bandwidth of that preamp with zero feedback, and it was just a phenomenal sounding preamplifier. I'm sorry for the shakiness in the camera. I'm hand holding it to make this video, and there's no image stabilization. For those of you who have weaker stomachs, I just recommend just not watching it and just listening to it podcast style, which is really the idea of this video. And then sometimes you can have a glance to just have an idea and ground it to reality. So anyway, that's number one thing. And what to hardwire the tubes. And in the case of your Pure Darling, you can hardwire a rectifier, you can hardwire your power tubes, but you won't have success with these guys because you can't really solder to those pins in a way to make it mechanically stable as well. So for that, you just have to use those tiny tube sockets. However, for mounting the tube sockets, do not mount them directly to the chassis. Use rubber grommets. What are these buggers? You see, this is a rubber grommet. I don't know why it doesn't want to focus. Hey, it's not focusing. Gee. Anyway, for some reason my camera just refuses to focus. So these rubber grommets, this is really thick. So what I do is that I take a utility knife, cut it into half, and then sandwich it between the tube and the chassis, so it will sit a little lower, and you might make like a bigger hole in your chassis to be able to sit the tube in. You will figure that out, but that's something really big, that when you have a metal chassis, then those vibrations from the transformer are not coupled that much to the power tube when you have this isolation by the rubber grommets. And also same thing, have the transformers, they sit, you see there's a gap between the house, the chassis, and the main power transformer, and that's because I have this half-size rubber grommets sitting there. And use that for every transformer, output transformer also on rubber grommets. However, if you have wooden chassis, then it's no grommets, then you just have everything sit on the wood. That will be a better choice. Because there is no resonating metallic element in between. And when you have the power tubes in the Darling amplifier, then you can also make what I did for my preamp, using similar voltages. I did not use these tube sockets, the tube bases. What I did is I made my own tube bases from Dacron. It is a material like Teflon. You can either use Teflon, or if that's a little bit more expensive, you can get Dacron, much cheaper. It's like the chopping board for, in the kitchen. Just cut it up, cut out a piece, and cut out holes for the tube pins, and you can have the tube sit in your Dacron socket or Teflon socket, hardwire the wires, and that's it. Then you have a direct connection. Much, so much better than any tube socket you can buy on the planet for any amount of money. So hard connection is something that cannot be beaten. That's true for the tube connections, and that's true also for the speaker wire and the RCA jacks. So really big thing is just get, oops, that's my Mullard made in Great Britain tube taking a dive on the floor. Anyway, that was the super premium driver tube of the Darling amplifier. Anyway, okay, I think I have realized what's going on. For some reason, my camera is stuck in manual focus mode. Why is it that? Jeez, I don't know. For some reason, it just decided to go for manual focus. Now I've switched it back to autofocus. So now probably we'll be able to see something. But I think for now I'm going to stop this video and continue with the second part. What else do I want to say? So Thank you for watching this roller coaster of a video, and thank you, Edward, so much for asking the question and for your generous Buy Me a Coffee donation. Unfortunately, this video took a long time to answer. Most of you have probably realized by now that it's been about 3 weeks or more. Actually, it's been more than 3 weeks for my time that I have made any videos at all for the channel. My last post was more recent than that, but that was because I was queuing them up, and by the time my latest video appeared, I shot that video already many days in advance. So anyway, in November, my spare time, free time has totally, entirely disappeared. So as you have noticed, I haven't made any videos, I haven't replied to maybe just 1 or 2 comments here and there by pure luck, and I have really hard time even answering emails, and that's not because I don't want to, but because life is just super unbelievably busy for me, and I just don't have the time for the channel at all at the moment during this month, and I'm not sure how the next month will be either. So anyway, thank you, Edward, thank you for your kind support, and I hope this video will be helpful for everyone. Have a fantastic day, and I hope next time I will have a little bit more time. I don't know where it will be, and then we can do a shake-free video, but now that was all the time I had to do, and maybe when I will become a time millionaire, I can set up a tripod and do all kind of fancy schmancy stuff to have a really fancy video, but for now this is what my time has allowed. Bye bye.